So today is a very special study. The title is called The Great Commission, and it comes from SD 11.2. So I wrote this a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago, I think. Right, so the Great Commission is kind of a modern translation of how the Buddha sent out those first 60 arhats to teach the Dharma to others. The world's first mission, and making Buddhism as the world's first missionary faith or missionary teaching or religion, whatever you like to call it. Now, the source of this is in the Vinaya. Okay, so it is like the introduction to all the rules, how the Buddha introduced the rules, and this comes from a part of the Vinaya called the Mahāvagga, which is a historical chapter. Mahāvagga, chapter 1, section 7 to 11. And this is the story of the young man Yasa, leading up to the sending of the first missionaries. Let's look at why this story is important and what can we learn from it. Okay. All right. Let's look at the first. It's called Yasa Pabbajjā. The Yasa's going forth. This is SD 11.2 bracket 7. Yasa's going forth, and notice here you have MV Mahāvagga 1.7.1 to 15. That is Mahāvagga, chapter 1, section 7, subsection 1 to subsection 15. Vinaya, volume 1, pages 15 to 18, right? The V Vinaya here is the numbering of the Pali texts prepared for us by the Pali Text Society in London about 100 years ago. The MV is the internal numbering of the Vinaya itself, right? And the theme, the two themes here is Yasa samvega, meaning his feeling of religious urgency, like the way the Siddhartha saw the three signs, and his awakening, his renunciation and awakening, right? So, and also the first three refuge lay people, layman, or the father is the first, and then the wife and the mother and the former wife. Okay, so you have this. It's a historical story. So how do we locate this? Let me just give you a quick introduction. Okay, so remember that the Buddha, after his awakening, just before his awakening, right? He decides to meditate. He thinks of the middle way. He decides to take food, if you remember. And that last meal, as the Bodhisattva, not awakened yet, he's still Bodhisattva, was given by a lady called Sujata. So Sujata became famous by giving the last meal to the Bodhisattva. Then that is the Vesak day. And then during the night, the Buddha becomes awakened, becomes Buddha. Okay, and then for 49 days, the Buddha did not take any food. Then he took some food after that, bit by bit. And then he started. He met some people, the merchant, Upāsikā, and so on. And then he taught the 5 monks. Remember the 5 monks. The Dhammacakka Sutta, Kondanya became a stream winner. And then 5 days later, he teaches the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, or non-self, to all the 5 monks, and they all became arhats. So that same day, or during the night, the Buddha meets Yasa, teaches to Yasa. Yasa meets the Buddha. So this is the story now. The title is Yasa Pabbajjā. Yasa's going forth. All right, so let's look at this passage. The 15 in square brackets means page 15 of the Pali text, all right? Then you have internal paragraph numbering. At that time in Benares, there was a set son, a delicate son of family named Yasa. Okay, Benares is a big holy city in India. This is a modern name to this. Today it is called Benares, so it's an ancient city. In the Pali, it's called Varanasi, all right? A Seth is a kind of entrepreneur, a kind of financier, a banker, if you like. It's difficult to translate into modern terms because his task is multi-purpose, basically dealing with money. So it's a rich family, right? So this is a Seth's son, Setiputta. Delicate means raised as a rich young person, everything taken care of, enjoying pleasures of life, okay? And his name is Yasa, okay? Yasa means fame, okay? It's a very common name, but here this Yasa is special because it's the first Yasa we know in the Sutta story. So now his story became very familiar once I read to you, but remember this is canonical, it comes from the Vinaya. He had 3 mentions. Yasa had 3 mentions, one for the cold season, one for the hot season, and one for the rains. In the rain season, during the 4 months of the rains, he was waited upon by only female musicians and did not come down to the ground floor of the mansion during those months. This to show that he lives a very pleasurable life, very easy life. Everything was taken care of. Of course, you can imagine by Singapore standard, it's quite unhealthy, right? But basic, I mean, a young man should be exercising and so on. Anyway, so this was his life, you see, because it was rainy season and so on. So he's enjoying the rainy season indoors like that. And then other times also, if it's too cold, too hot, so he stays in this mansions. Okay, they're not palaces, they're called mansions, very nice buildings. I'm sure he does all these physical exercises which young men of those days would do, but basically he lives a very luxurious life for a young man. His age is probably below 20, you know, late teens perhaps, so he's a young man. And then while Yasa, the son of family, was given over to the pleasures of the 5 senses and grows in them, being attended to with such care, he fell asleep. With his attendants, and his attendants too fell asleep, and an oil lamp burned all night. Now this last sentence, last phrase, very interesting. It says, and an oil lamp burned all night. Even without that sentence, you might say the story makes sense, but this an oil lamp burned all night is symbolic of that. You can look at it in many ways, right? It's quiet, peaceful. It's very restful. At the same time, there is this light. There's this light so that you can see. Otherwise, if it's all dark, you can't see. The story won't be so clear. In fact, in this story, if you look at it from a literary point of view, the theme of seeing is the key idea here. So it starts with this oil lamp burning all night. Then Yasa, the son of family, having woken suddenly before the rest, saw his own attendants sleeping. All right, so the sentence is not finished yet. Now look at this. It's difficult to translate this phrase, which actually, if you translate literally, it means before the rest. So in other words, he got up early. So I was thinking how to translate this in a very dramatic and idiomatic way. So suddenly you would best describe what really happened, right? He just kind of started, you know, to wake up and look around. And this is the turning point. Okay, here, what did he see? Okay, let's look at the next dramatic passage that changed his life. So he saw, remember, he was looking at all these beautiful women, young, beautiful women all around him. One with a lute or veena under her armpit, one with a tabor, there's a small drum at her neck, one with a drum under her armpit, one with disheveled hair, right? So they had very nice hair before that, but now it's the hair all very messy. One drooling, those saliva flowing from the mouth, and one muttering, talking in a sleep. So you have all these beautiful women who are supposed to bring joy to this young man, who are now in a different mode. So what is Yasa's reaction? Okay, so the narrator tells us, this is the narrator's words. Huh? One would think it was a charnel ground within arm's reach, or in our modern languages, it's as if these are all dead bodies, right? Sleeping and death are very close, right? So this, remember, this is a vision that Yasa is seeing. So we should not misinterpret this message as saying, oh, these women are ugly and so on. It's not that. It is this spiritual vision which arises in Yasa's mind that shock him, just the way Siddhartha saw the 3 signs. He was shocked to see the 3 signs that these things can happen to a world that is so beautiful and pleasant. So this is what happens to Yasa also. 2.2, seeing this, he felt the danger or wretchedness. His mind was set in revulsion. So he said, basically, to put in simple words, he sees all this and he's disgusted by it. He said, wow, look at, they were beautiful, in the daytime, and suddenly they look like this. So even beautiful people can look like this. So I'm only looking at one angle. And then so he has this revulsion. He say something like, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. Yucks, I'm giving this up, So that the kind of realizing things are not really what they seem to be. Then Yasa, the son of family, uttered a solemn utterance. Okay, here you see this word underlined, solemn utterance. The Pali word is udana. Now we're so used to the term udana translated as a kind of inspired saying, verses of uplift. But if you look at the commentaries and the notes who mention this, there are actually 2 senses. One is a not so happy saying, but very realistic, like here. So this is an example where this Yasa sees this really scary, very revealing, very real situation, invoking samvega, religious urgency. And his reaction is to make this udana, a solemn utterance. Oh, what trouble indeed. Oh, what affliction indeed. Upadutang watabo, idang upasatang watabo. So that's the Pali word. Huh? So here he was shocked. So when he sees this, you see that here his experience is like almost like this speeded up compared to the case of Siddhartha when he saw the 4 sides. Section 3. Then Yasa, the son of family, having put on his golden sandals, approached the door of his house. Non-humans opened the doors, thinking, let there be no hindrance for his going forth from the household life into homelessness. Then Yasa, the son of family, approached the city gate. Non-humans opened the gate, thinking, let there be no hindrance for his going forth from the household life into homelessness. Then Yasa, the son of family, went to the deer park. Let's look at this paragraph 3. Right? If you recall how Siddhartha left home, he left on a horse, right? In fact, the story is very similar here. Devas opened the city gates, which are locked, and usually you have guards at the gate, but the guards all fell asleep, okay? And the guards opened the city gates so that Siddhartha was not hindered in any way to go forth, right? So here, of course, we can interpret all this as Yasa's good karma, that there was no hindrance in his going forth. The time was right. Okay. Of course, if you tell a story like that to children, they first of all, will scratch their heads, yeah, what's going on. It's not interesting to them. But when you say Devas and Mara and so on, they'll say, wow, okay, that's interesting. So you sugarcoat this story. So here, remember, this is a narrative, a story being told to us. We have to ask ourselves, what is this story about? So here you are. It's about Yasa's going forth. His timing was right. His karma is right. So right now, as we are sitting here, our karma also is right. So we should be happy in that sense. So the last line says that Yasa, the son of family, went to the deer park and is at Isipatana. Now this is the link, the first link Yasa has with the Buddha. Because the Buddha was at that time residing in the deer park, Isipatana, if you remember. And the Buddha had just finished teaching the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta in the daytime, right? So the Buddha is sitting under the tree, meditating. All right, let's see what happens then. Section 4. Now, at that time, the Blessed One, having risen from the night, early at dawn, so this will be around, say, 4 o'clock, right? 4 a.m., 3, 4 maybe. So Yasa is wandering at the time, early in the morning. So the Buddha was walking up and down in the open, doing his exercise for his legs. The Blessed One saw the son of family, Yasa, coming in the distance. Having seen him, the Blessed One stepped out of the walkway. Here the walkway is the Changamana, the meditation walkway, and sat down on a prepared seat. So there's a special seat there where Buddha usually sit to teach, and in full view of the public, easy for Yasa to see. 4.2. Then Yasa, the son of family, when he was near the Blessed One, made the solemn utterance, "Oh, what trouble indeed! Oh, what affliction indeed!" In fact, he was going along and saying the same thing. We're not told whether he consciously wanted to see the Buddha or not, but somehow we see him naturally proceeding, approaching the Buddha. And he's really troubled by what he has seen. So, oh, this is really bad. Then what did the Buddha do? The Buddha's response is very simple. 4.3. Then the Blessed One made this inspired utterance to Yasa, the son of family. Okay, let's go down and see. The Buddha said, "This, Yasa, is no trouble indeed. This is no affliction, right? Idang ko Yasa, anupaditang, idang anupasatang." So here we see the Buddha saying just the opposite of what Yasa is saying. So here Buddha is saying, not so, not so, right? So of course, Yasa is curious, right? So here, because Yasa is ready, he is suffering, so the Buddha welcomes him. Buddha said, "Come, Yasa, sit down. I will show you the Dharma. I'm going to show you the opposite of all these things you're talking about." Then Yasa, the son of family, thought, "I hear that this is no trouble. I hear that this is no affliction." So he's kind of happy. He says, "Oh, there is such a thing, is there?" So joyful, uplifted, he took off his golden sandals and approached the Blessed One, saluted him, and sat down at one side. While Yasa, the son of family, was seated at one side, the Blessed One gave him a progressive talk on the Dharma. That is to say, he presented a talk on giving, a talk on moral virtue, a talk on the joys of heaven, heavenly life, and explained to him the dangers of sensual pleasures, its degrading nature, the advantages of renunciation. Now look at these 5 interesting points of the progressive talk. Remember, the progressive talk, Mr. Buddha is leading the listener from what's familiar, what's the common belief of the day, up to what he teaches. So he begins by talking that, okay, giving is good, and you give this benefits, and it helps you to practice moral virtue, keep the precepts, and that helps you to be reborn happily in a heaven or even on earth. You are very happy, right? So these all very familiar teachings to the people of those days. And you enjoy sensual pleasures of a really heavenly kind. But then sensual pleasures are based on the senses. And because of that, you depend on the senses, and they are impermanent. So there are dangers there. And there is a way out. That's renunciation. So notice that the Buddha gives this very beautiful sequence of teachings to show that there are good things in life, but there are also better things without the painful side effects. Okay, so this is the progressive teaching, gradual teaching. Then what happens to Yasa? Section 6. When the Blessed One knew of Yasa, the son of family, that his mind was malleable, pliable, in other words, soft enough, no more thinking of all those negative things he had seen, pliable, that means ready to turn to meditation, or free from the hindrances. The mental hindrances are gone, no thoughts of desire or ill will, no distraction of any kind. Uplifted, clear, so his mind is ready, in other words, to listen. In fact, this is just the right time. This is a turning point. So that's when the Buddha explained the Dharma teaching common to all the Buddhas. Suffering is arising, is ending, the path. So notice, the gradual teaching actually ends with the Four Noble Truths. The gradual teaching is a preparation to teach the Four Noble Truths to someone when they are ready. Okay, that's the meaning here. Huh? So here we see Yasa listening, and then he responds to the Buddha's teaching. The narrator tells us, just as a clean cloth free from any black spot easily takes a dye, it's like the mind, the pure mind. Even so, just as he sat right there, the stainless, spotless Dharma eye arose in him thus. Whatever is of the nature to arise, all that is of the nature to end. So here comes this very interesting situation. Huh? We don't really know what level Yasa has attained here. At this early stage, remember this is very early in the first year of the Buddha's teaching, so there's no detailed Dharma teachings like what we know later. Huh? So Dharma here is a broad term for any kind of attainment when you reach the path. That is the sense of it. We'll come back to this meaning a little later. So here, basically, the storyteller, the narrator is telling us, he reached the path. He's ready. Yasa has reached the path. But of course, we know later on, he's not an arhat yet, because he becomes an arhat later. That is indirectly. Okay, so here, from the deer park, the scene shifts to Yasa's house. So all this we have to know as we read the story, right? So this is called the Sutta as literature, or the Vinaya as literature here. So now we go on to section 7. We go to Yasa's house. Now here, as usual, is the mother who notices what's happening at home, right? Then the mother of Yasa, now she got no name, because it's very important to know. So we can call her in Pali Yasa Mata. Yasa Mata simply means Yasa's mother. Then the mother of Yasa, the son of family, having gone up to the mansion and not seeing Yasa and the son of family, approached the merchant house lord, Yasa Pita, that is the Yasa's father. Having approached the merchant house lord, she said, house lord, your son Yasa is not to be seen, right? He's missing. Then the merchant house lord, having sent messengers on horseback in the 4 quarters, went himself to the deer park at Isipatana. Now, it's interesting that the father would go there too. Apparently, we can say that the deer park is a beautiful place nearby. So it's a place that he thought, well, surely he must have gone there. The merchant house lord saw the tracks of the golden sandals and followed them. Okay, so his karma also is good. So he's able to follow, he more or less knows where Yasa went. This is where the father is often very good in finding out where the son is. I'm reminded of a very beautiful story, my own childhood. I've not told this before, I think. As a teenager, I used to, go out with friends and often miss dinner. Or maybe even after dinner and it's late, I'm still not back home. It's like 10 p.m. is quite late. And we're talking about over 50, 60 years ago. So having fun with this friend, with my friends somewhere. Then here comes along this elderly figure, and he comes up to me and say, "You have to go home, time to go home," So it's my father. Now, what I'm amazed at that time, I can still remember, how does he know where to find me? I never had a chance to ask him that. This is one of the things sometimes we take for granted, and we only regret after the person has gone, the person is dead. I'm amazed how he knew where to find me, because I've never told anyone, even my mother, no one at home, no one else, in fact, except only my friends who were with me knew where I was. We were quite distant from home. I think it was like, there was this big old school, those days the schools are not locked up, this open space, you can just go in and go anywhere and just have fun. And he knew where to look for me. So here you see Yasa's father like that, knowing where to look for Yasa. Okay, so now we have a cliffhanger. Let me stop here for a while so that you're eager to come back and listen to the rest of the story. So now we take a short break since it's nearly 9 p.m.
Thank you, Piya. We'll take a 5-minute break. I think we can continue.
Okay.
Yes, please go on, Piya.
Right, section 8. The Blessed One saw the merchant house lord coming in the distance. And it occurred to the Blessed One, what if I were to create a psychic wonder so that the merchant house lord seated here would not see Yasa, the son of family, seated here? Then the Blessed One created a psychic wonder to that effect. So this is the Buddha's private thought. So remember, the storyteller here knows the Buddha's mind, right? So it's called the omniscient narrator, right? Then the merchant house lord approached the Blessed One. Having approached, he said this to the Blessed One. Bhante, has the Blessed One seen Yasa? Okay, notice here again you have the theme of seeing, right? Have you seen Yasa? So here the Buddha responds a very interesting way to the question that Yasa's father asked. He said, have you seen Yasa? So the Buddha is taking the word seen in a broad sense, Notice the Buddha replies, well then, house lord, sit down. He didn't say yes or no. He said, well then, sit down. Perhaps sitting here, you may see Yasa, the son of family, sitting here. So this is one of those very interesting languages, or words rather, which have got at least 2 levels, the worldly level, the deep Dharma level. So the Buddha says, you perhaps may see your son, right? So here the question is, what does he mean, right? So he's talking about 2 ways. No? The father wants to see the son physically as his son, but is not able to. He can't see his son. So the Buddha said, well, you can really see him. I'll teach you how to do that, basically. Then the merchant house lord thinking, I hear that if I were to sit here, I might see Yasa, the son of Fen, sitting here. Joyful, uplifted, he saluted the Blessed One and sat down at one side. So basically, he thinks the Buddha knows where Yasa is. As the merchant house lord was seated at one side, the Blessed One gave him a progressive talk on the Dharma. Right, so this is, okay, this whole passage is what's called a stock passage, a pericope. So it's kind of, he gave the similar teaching, but not in exactly the same words, depending on the father's mental state. Right, so he talked on the 5 aspects of the progressive talk. That is to say, he presented a talk on giving, a talk on moral virtue, a talk on the joys of heaven, and explained to him the dangers of sensual pleasures, its degrading nature, the advantages of renunciation. When the Blessed One knew that the merchant house lord, that his mind was malleable, pliable, free from hindrance, uplifted, clear, he explained the Dharma teaching common to all the Buddhas. Suffering is arising, is ending, the path. So notice this basic teaching is similar, not the same, but similar to what Yasa heard. Now, the same thing happens to Yasa's father. He enters the path. Just as a clean cloth free from any black spot easily takes dye, even so, just as said right there, the stainless, spotless Dharma eye arose in him. Thus, whatever is of the nature to arise, all that is of the nature to end. In later Sutta tradition, this kind of phrase means the person has attained stream winning. Okay, but here it's not mentioned. So it can be can be stream winning, once returning, non-returning, or at least the first 2. Okay, so now Yasa's father too has reached the path. 10.3. Then the merchant house lord, having seen the Dharma, again notice, now he has seen the Dharma, having mastered the Dharma, having known the Dharma, having immersed himself in the Dharma. So having immersed himself, that means he has reached the path, having crossed over doubt. Okay, this part, having crossed over doubt, having cleared away uncertainty, having won moral courage, independent of others in the teacher's teaching. Okay, this one is clear. We know from other passages, this refers to stream winning. So then he said to the Blessed One, so now he's a disciple of the Buddha, because he has attained stream winning. So he says, Sadhu, say, excellent Bhante, excellent Bhante. Just as if Bhante wanted to place upright what had been overturned, or to reveal what was hidden, or to show the way to one who was lost, or to uphold a lamp in the dark so that those with eyes could see forms. In the same way, the Blessed One has, in numerous ways, made the Dharma clear. I, Bhante, go to the Blessed One for refuge, to the Dharma, and to the community of monks. May the Blessed One remember me as a layman who has gone to him for refuge from this day forth for life. So, the narrator tells us, he became the first 3 refuge layman in the world. So this all first things happening, right? So now you have the Sangha of 5 monks, the Buddha, all right? So, and here Yasa's father takes refuge in a natural way, spontaneous, not as a ritual, but because he already has attained stream winning. Then what happens next? Let's look at the next passage. So 11 now. Yasa is sitting behind the Buddha, if you like, or hidden away somewhere in the background. Then while the father of Yasa, the son of family, was being taught the Dharma, he, that is Yasa, was reviewing his level as it was seen, as it was known. His mind was freed from the mental influxes, freed from clinging. So here, this This sutta code meaning is attained arhathood, free from mental influxes, no more craving, views, and ignorance. Okay, so the Buddha knew this. Then this thought occurred to the Blessed One. While the father of Yasa, the son of family, was being taught the Dharma, he, Yasa, was reviewing his level. As it was seen, as it was known, his mind was freed from mental influxes, freed from clinging. Now Yasa, the son of family, having turned away from the low life, is incapable of enjoying sensual pleasures, as he formerly did as one living in a house. What if I were to put an end to the psychic wonder? Then the Blessed One put an end to the psychic wonder. Right, so here we see the Buddha telling us what's happening. So he says, okay, looks like Yasa has attained arhathood. All right. So in the case of Yasa, he just listens. We don't know what the Buddha taught him. We're not told. Probably some teachings from the Dhammacakka Sutta, Anatalakkhana Sutta. Definitely the teaching on the three characteristics are there. So Yasa, by reflecting, he was in kind of meditation, and he comes out of it, and then he reflects, and he attains arhathood. So he will never go back to the pleasures of the world, house life, right? So the Buddha knew this. So he says, okay, now Yasa is safe. His father can look at him. He can speak for himself. Then the merchant house lord saw Yasa, the son of family, sitting down. So now, Sashanta, you see the father already sees the son. That is a very beautiful passage because it shows very often in a family, the father doesn't really understand the son. And it goes the other way also. But here, the father sees the son finally on a spiritual level. Because the father too has attained stream winning, and the son is an arhat. Can you imagine that? So they are on the same, more or less similar spiritual plane, if you like. So now he comes back to the role of the father. So here again is very significant because although the father is a stream winner, he still remembers his role as the father. Seeing Yasa, the son of family, he said thus to him, "Dear Yasa, your mother, filled with grief, has been crying. Give life to your mother." Right? So pity your mother. Okay. So this is a typical talk, right? Or parental talk says, you know, your mother is worried about you, right? So then Yasa, the son of family, looked towards the Blessed One. You notice here is very interesting because Yasa is already a stream winner. So he respects the Buddha as the teacher. So he doesn't want to say anything. But again, here you have to imagine there is a bit of sense of humor here, right? So he's wondering, he's very curious, what would the Buddha say? This is called the laughing wisdom of the arhats, no? Because they kind of know what the world thinks, and they're smiling, even laughing at it. They say, oh, this foolish world, they have all these funny wrong ideas, you know. So he doesn't want to say it because you have a better teacher there. You have the Buddha himself there. So he doesn't want to steal the thunder. He won't be able to bear it. He's curious, what would the Buddha say? Then Yasa, the son of family, looked towards the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One said this to the merchant house lord. What do you think, house lord? Notice, what do you think, house lord? Because he knows Yasa's father, as a stream winner, would understand. What do you think, house lord? That Dharma has been seen by Yasa. True reality has been seen by Yasa. Right? So here we must understand Dharma here is not merely sutta teachings, but true reality has been seen by Yasa, the son of family. With now comes the difficult part I was telling you about at the start, before I started on this sutta. What do you think, House Lord? That the Dharma has been seen by Yasa, the son of family, with the knowledge of the training, with the vision of the training. Even so have you too. As Yasa was reviewing his level as it was seen, as it was known, his mind was freed from mental influxes, freed from clinging. What do you think, House Lord? Is one who has turned away from the low life, capable of enjoying such pleasures, as his family did, as one living in a house? Now, Yasa's father, of course, says, no, indeed, Blessed One. So he understands, you see. Now, in your sutta notes, in your free time, you can read up this big problem here of Pali. The Pali word used the word seka. Okay, it says here seka jnana, seka dasana, seka jnana, seka dasana. The knowledge of the seka and the vision of the seka. Now, normally, as we understand today, seka means learner. But if you translate that way in this passage, it will not make sense, because Yasa is an arhat. The father is seka, yes, but this term also applies to Yasa as well as the father. You know, as I mentioned in the Facebook post, no one in the last 100 years noticed this. But in the old outdated translation of the Vinaya called the Vinaya text by T.W. Rhys-Davids and Herman Oldenburg, they noticed this, okay? So Rhys-Davids and Oldenburg made a note of this passage. Né? Let me see if I can get the number, the quote here. Né? Okay, so here is a note 46. So in the translations, apparently only Rhys-Davids and Oldenburg in 1885 noticed this Pali difficulty here, noting that seka is, quote, a person who has attained to any stage in a noble eightfold path, such as Sotapatipala, etc., inferior to the higher arhats. Okay, this on volume 1, page 107, note 1, and so on. So this is where, of course, if we look at this Vinaya text translation, as a scholar, we may say, oops, Rhys-Davids and Oldenburg probably made an error here, you know. But if you look carefully, they are right. They noticed this difficulty. And while I was going through this, I said, yeah, this is a problem here. You can't translate this in the normal sense that we understand it. You got to see the context. So this is called the rule of contextuality. What does this term really mean? So here, the term seka refers to the whole path. Then only this passage makes sense, right? And this refers to all the 4 kinds of saints, the streamliner, one-returner, non-returner, arhats, all together. The Buddha is speaking very broadly, and this makes sense because he's speaking the first year of the ministry, before he even sends out the monks to teach the world, right? So we have to make a note of this. It's a very interesting discovery, very interesting thing for us to know. So you can read this up again in your free time. Right, so let's continue with the story. And so the father now agrees with the Buddha, say, oh, you know, this Yasa will never go back to the family life. So the Dharma has been taught by him, and so on. So he repeats everything the Buddha says. Then 13, Blessed One, it is a gain for Yasa. So he's very happy. He says, a gain for Yasa, the son of family, a good gain, Bhante, for Yasa, the son of family. In that his mind is stripped from mental influxes, from clinging. So he says, wow, wonderful, you know, he's an arhat now. Now, as a layman, as a father, as a layman, what can they do? He offers dana. to Yasa, to Buddha and Yasa. And this is also a very clever way to allow Yasa to visit the home as an arhat, as renunciants, as monks, right? So he invites them to his home for dana. Bhante, may the Blessed One consent to a meal from me tomorrow. In fact, tomorrow is just a few hours later, see, because he's talking to the Buddha like 5 o'clock already. With Yasa, the son of family, as attendant, right? So he wants to make sure, okay, Yasa comes along. The Buddha consented by his silence. Then the merchant house lord, having received the Blessed One's consent, rose from his seat, saluted the Blessed One, and keeping his right side towards him, left. So there you have the father leaves. Now you have Yasa and the Buddha. Section 14. Then not long after the merchant house lord had left, Yasa, the son of family, said this to the Blessed One. May I receive the going forth before the Blessed One? May I receive the ordination? Right? So now, remember, he's already an arhat, but he was a layman. So he asked the Buddha permission to join, to become a monk. So he would be number 6, right? You have the 5 monks, so it's number 6. There is no Sangha ritual at that time. By virtue of Yasa's arhathood, he's already a monk. So all the Buddha need to do was acknowledge this by saying, Ehi bhikkhu, come bhikshu, said the Buddha. Well taught is the Dharma, live the holy life. Notice the highlighted word. Well taught is the Dharma. Yasa has heard the Dharma. So you just live the holy life. Later on, in other formula we will come to in a moment, the Buddha will add one more verse at the end. We'll find out what that verse is, what that phrase is in a moment. So the narrator tells us this was the Venerable's ordination. There were then 7 arhats in the world. Okay, sadhu, this is wonderful. So you have 5 monks, Yasa, and the Buddha, 7 arhats. And this part concludes the story of Yasa becoming an arhat. Now we go to Yasa's home. Okay, now the title is Paṭhama Te vacikā Upāsikā. The first 3 refuge lay women. So this is a conversion of Yasa's family, and the first 3 refuge lay women. And this is from again the same, the Vinaya. Then the Blessed One, having dressed himself in the morning, taking bowl and robe, and with Yasa, the son of family, as attendant, that means Pachasamana, following behind the Buddha, went to the merchant house lord's house for alms. Having gone there, he sat down on the prepared seat, and Yasa also sat down beside the Buddha. Then the Venerable Yasa's mother and his former wife, notice no names are given, approached the Blessed One. Having approached the Blessed One, they saluted him and sat down at one side. And here again, the Buddha gave the same progressive talk. Okay, the Blessed One gave them gave a progressive talk on the Dharma. That's to say, he presented a talk on giving, a talk on moral virtue, a talk on the joys of heaven, and explained to them, just to be corrected, to them, the dangers of pleasure. No? So let me just make a note of this. Its degrading nature, its the advantages of renunciation. When the Blessed One knew that they were ready, okay, yeah, again, this human error, copy and paste, should be that their minds were malleable, pliable, free from hindrances, uplifted and clear. He explained the Dharma teaching common to all the Buddhas. Suffering is arising, is ending, and the path. Now, once you get this kind of teaching from the Buddha, and you are ready, you at least become a stream winner. And this what happens to the 2 women. Just as a clean cloth is free from any black spots, easily takes time. Even so, just as they said, right there. The stainless, spotless Dharma I arose in them thus. Whatever is of the nature to arise, or that is of the nature to end. In other words, they see nature of impermanence. Then they, having seen the Dharma, having mastered the Dharma, having known the Dharma, having found a fully firm footing in the Dharma, having crossed over doubt, having cleared away uncertainty, having won moral courage, independent of others, in the teacher's teaching, said this to the Blessed One. So the next one is the taking of refuge. Okay, so this verse I've just read really hints to us that they have attained stream winning. So in this case, once they have attained stream winning before the Buddha, they will naturally go for refuge. So they say, excellent Bhante, excellent Bhante. Just as if one were to place upright what had been overturned, were to reveal what was hidden, were to show the way to one who was lost, or were to hold up a lamp in the dark so that those with eyes could see forms. In the same way, the Blessed One has in numerous ways made the Dharma clear. We, Bhante, go to the Blessed One for refuge, to the Dharma, and to the community of monks. May the Blessed One remember us as laywomen who have gone to him for refuge from this day forth for life. Then the narrator tells us, so they became the first 3 refuge laywomen in the world. Right, so then their dana begins, right? Then the Venerable Yasa's mother and father and his former wife, having served the Blessed One and Venerable Yasa with their own hands, having offered them excellent food, hard and soft. Okay, go further down. Until they, that is the Blessed One and Venerable Yasa, stopped them. When the Blessed One had finished his meal, removed his hand from the bowl, sat down at one side. Then the Blessed One, having instructed the Venerable Yasa's mother and father and former wife with the Dharma talk, inspiring them, firing them with enthusiasm, gladdening them, rose from his seat and left. Right, so they both leave the home. So now we have lay people also. Right, it's going to be a snowball. There's going to be more monks, more young monks. All right. So now, because Yasa was a rich young man, has got many friends, right? So now we have the next story is Catu Gihi Sahāyaka Pabbajjā, the going forth of the 4 layman friends, also in the Vinaya, and this story is followed in a sequence. So you see here a format, a framework very similar, only the characters are different. Now 4 lay friends of the Venerable Yasa, the sons of various merchants, great and small, of Binaris, Vimala, Subahu, Punachi, Gawampati, heard. It is said that Yasa, the son of family, having shaven off hair and beard, and donning the saffron robe, has gone forth from the household life into homelessness. Right? So these 4 friends, they're very good friends of Yasa. So their karma also ripened. They said, wow, Yasa has become a monk and has shaven off his hair and beard. This shaving off hair and beard is really important and interesting, right? Shaving off hair means you let go of the world. Shaving off beard means you let go of power, masculinity, right? As a monk. You notice, even today, you find these gurus of India who try to create a sensation for themselves. They are always, very often, they are bearded. The idea of bearded is like to show, hey, I'm special, you know? And also to express their masculinity, right? So my advice is be careful of such gurus. They have a lot of personal philosophies, and very often if they talk about the Buddha, they misquote him and so on. So just keep away, basically, to be safe, right? So this is the opposite of those who shave off their hair and beard. All right, so these 4 layman friends of Yasa, hearing this, they said, now this is no mean Dharma in Vinaya, no mean going forth. It says, wow, this Dharma Vinaya, the Buddha's teaching, that's what the Buddha's teaching is called those days, Dharma Vinaya. The word Buddhism is not used. And this going forth is not a small thing. It's amazing. It's so amazing that Yasa, the son of family, having shaven off his hair and beard and donning the serpent robe, has gone forth from the household life into homelessness. So if Yasa can do this, it's amazing. So they approached the Venerable Yasa, and having approached Yasa, they saluted him and sat down at one side. Then the Venerable Yasa brought these 4 lay friends to the Blessed One. Having approached the Blessed One, they saluted him, sat down at one side. Seated thus at one side, the Venerable Yasa said this to the Blessed One. So he introduces his friends. So these, Bhante, are 4 lay friends of mine, the sons of various merchants of Benares, Vimala, Subhahu, Punaji, Kawampati. May the Blessed One advise and teach them. Now notice, Yasa is a monk, so even when old friends come back, they didn't talk about old times, they talk about Dharma. And then Yasa brings them to see the Buddha, and what does the Buddha do? Teach them the progressive talk as before, right? So the Buddha, knowing that their karma is ripe, he teaches them giving, moral virtue, further down, the joys of heaven, the dangers of sensual pleasures, and the advantages of renunciation. So listening to this for the first time in their life from the Buddha himself, right? So according to section 3, their minds became malleable, pliable, free from hindrances, uplifted and clear. Then the Buddha explained to them the 4 noble truths. Okay. So let me just make a note here. So here the Buddha explained to them the 4 noble truths. And so their minds cleared and they attained the Dhamma eye. In other words, they became at least streamliness, just like the other people before, right? So what happens now? Now that they become streamliness, just like Yasa, 4, then they, having seen the Dhamma, having mastered the Dhamma, having known the Dhamma, having found a fully firm footing in the Dhamma, having crossed over doubt. When you see this, having crossed over doubt, this is stop passage with the rest. It shows they've become streamliness. And naturally, they would request to go forth. Bhante, may we receive the going forth before the Blessed One. May we receive the ordination. So they want to become monks. 4.2, the Buddha accept them as ehi bhikkhu, calm bhikkhus, said the Blessed One. But notice the next sentence is different. Well taught is the Dharma, live the holy life for the utter ending of suffering. For the utter ending of suffering. Why? Because they are not arhats like Yasa. They are still streamliness, so they have to continue moving up the path to remove the other fetters. So the Buddha says, live the holy life for the utter ending of suffering. This was the Venerable's ordination. Then the Blessed One advised and taught these monks with a Dhamma talk. Being advised and taught by the Buddha with the Dhamma talk, the minds of these monks were freed from influxes, freed from clinging. So there were then 11 arhats in the world. Okay, 4.3, you must use your literary sense. There is a bit of time here. We're not told how much time did the Buddha give to these monks. How long did it take for this teaching to go, for these 4 friends to become arhats? But there's a bit of time involved, not too long. Maybe 1 day, maybe longer, we're not told. But the important thing is they became arhats, so now there are 11 arhats. So you see this build-up of arhats in the world. Now we come nearing the closing chapter. Okay, next one. Paññāsa Gihi Yasa Pabbajjā. So now there are more friends, 50 other friends of friends, if you like. Okay. So it's like Yasa and his 4 friends, they're like leaders of this group. So each of them like have 10 friends, if you like. So there are 50 friends. Now 50 lay friends of the Venerable Yasa, those of leading families and of families coming after them in the country heard. It is said that Yasa, the son of family, having shaving off hair and beard and donning the saffron robe, has gone forth from the household life into homelessness. Hearing this, they said similar words to what previously said by their four friends. Now this is no mean Dharma and discipline, no mean going forth, such that Yasa, the son of family, having shaved off hair and beard and donning the saffron robe, has gone forth from the household life into homelessness. So what we see here is, in a sense, you can take this as an example of group karma, where all these young men, they've been doing a lot of good stuff when they were in the previous lives, if you like. So the act of good act of one person ripples off, affects all the others. So they approach Yasa. Yasa brings them to the Buddha and introduces them to the Buddha, and it says, Bhante, these are 50 lay friends of mine. So what does the Buddha do? 2.2, the Buddha teaches them the progressive talk again, the same, right, on giving, moral virtue, the joys of heaven, dangers of sensual pleasures, and advantages of renunciation. This is to prepare them mentally, their minds to be happy and joyful and ready for the teaching on the Four Noble Truths. And then, just like a clean cloth free of black spots, you can take dye. As they sat right there, the Dharma eye arose in them. They also became streamliness. Further down, section 4. So they also asked to join the Sangha, to renounce the world. And again, the Buddha declares them in the same way as before, 4.2. Come, bhikshus, said the Blessed One. Well taught is the Dharma, live the holy life for the utter ending of suffering. They still have to complete their training, right, from streamlining upwards to arhathood. This was the Venerable's ordination. Then the Blessed One advised and taught these monks with the Dharma talk. Being advised and taught with the Dharma talk, the minds of these monks were freed of influxes, freed from clinging. There were then 61 arhats in the world. Okay, now we have come to this high point, 61 arhats in the world. So imagine you can calculate the 60 later on your own. In your own free time, we come to the climax, the end of the study, the Great Commission, Mahā Carikā. There's a star you see here on the front of the word. The star means it's an invented word. It's not exactly found in the suttas, but it makes sense. Mahā Carikā means the great, literally it means the great walking, the great going forth. So in modern terms, modern idiom, we can call it the Great Commission. In other words, the Buddha gives instructions to the monk to go forth. Carikā Anujānana, Assent for going forth into the world. Here, going forth meaning going forth on a mission. This is the first propagation of the Dharma by the monks, going out. Now, what's interesting here is that this going out is not so much of going around talking people, saying, oh, life is suffering, not like that. All these 60 monks, they were arhats. So all they need to do is just calmly walk, and by their demeanor, by their radiance and peacefulness, people are amazed just to look at them. So they are walking advertisements of peace and joy and happiness. So people go up to them and ask them Dharma questions, and that's how they get converted. So this is what the passage says, this last passage. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks. Freed am I, bhikshus, from all snares, from all traps, divine and human. You too, bhikshus, are freed from all snares, divine and human. Go forth, bhikshus, on a mission for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, of compassion for the world, for the good and happiness of the gods and humans. Let not two go the same way. Teach the Dharma, bhikshus, good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end, both in the spirit and in the letter. Declare the holy life in its whole and complete purity. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who, not listening, would be ruined. They will grow if they understand the Dharma. I will myself, bhikshus, go to Senanigama near Uruvela to teach the Dharma. Right, so this is the famous Great Commission, found both in the Vinaya as well as in the Samyutta 4.5. It's also found in the Sanskrit text called Mahāvastu. Let me quickly explain to you all the 9 lines, or the 9 sentences. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks. So it's obvious the Buddha is sending the monks out. So first of all, the Buddha explains why he has the right, or it's natural for him to teach, to want them to teach the world. Because freedom I, bhikshus, from all snares, divine and human. All kinds of traps, like divine traps, human traps. Human traps, of course, are essential pleasures and so on. Divine traps are all those great teachings about God and heaven and so on. So the Buddha says, I'm free, you are free. Right? So we are equals in that sense. Now let us help the world. Okay. So this is a time when he decides to do that. So in verse 3, verse 3 or passage 3, the Buddha gives them the instruction, go forth, go out, right, cārika, go on a mission, right, go out there. Why? For the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, that they are happy. Notice it's not about suffering, it's about happiness. Why? Out of compassion for the world, because they are suffering and you reach out to them. For the good and happiness of gods and humans, not just humans, but also gods. If you don't believe in gods, you've been watching Star Trek, that you have aliens. This is the Buddhism is the religion of the future. When the aliens come here, we can tell them, hey, look, the Buddha knows that you'll be coming. Okay, so gods and humans. So here, the Buddha is telling these monks, go forth. Be compassionate to the world. Teach them. That's what it is about. This Dharma can help them. So it is very important to understand that not to be afraid. Right? So that's what it's meant by moral courage, by the way. Not to fear, just because we think differently, we know different things, and we have no fear because we are morally pure. The monks are morally pure. The arhats are morally pure, so they have nothing to fear. That's their moral courage. Now, the next thing is the Buddha wants to make sure that there is maximum benefit. Let not two go out in the same way. Now, if you picture it, it's very symbolic, 60 monks minus 1, Buddha is 1, 60 directions. So you imagine roughly all the north, the 4 cardinal points, and then the points in between, and then somewhere in between, you get 60 points. The whole compass is covered. So basically, this means in every direction from where the Buddha was at that time. And what do they do when they go out? Teach the Dharma, right? And this Dharma is good in the beginning, moral virtue, good in the middle, the training of the mind, meditation, and good in the end, wisdom, which frees them, both in the spirit and in the letter, right? So we teach according to how people can understand it. And then we also show them what the Buddha has discovered in the suttas. That is the Dharma itself, right? Teach the Dharma. Then 6, declare the holy life. 6 is the holy life. This is renunciation. This is the higher level for those who wants to go forth. Declare the holy life in its whole and complete purity. Don't just take part of it. Don't say, oh, we can adjust this, we can forget that. Teach the Vinaya completely. Teach the holy life completely. Teach monkhood completely. Why? Now the rest is the reason. 7, there are beings with little dust in their eyes. If you have little dust in the eyes, you can see okay. Yeah, you have to flicker your eyes, but you can see. So if people like us are these little dusts in their eyes, okay? If we don't listen to the Dharma, we'll be ruined. We'll be really messing ourselves up. We'll be dropping down like flies into the subhuman worlds as pretas and animals and hell beings. On the other hand, if we listen to Dharma, we will somehow grow. We will grow if we understand the Dharma. We build up ourselves. Now don't think, oh, I've been listening to the Dharma, but I'm not growing. Now, you don't see yourself growing like Tauge, like this Prince Proud. We grow inside ourselves. We have been keeping the precepts to our best ability. At least we know breaking precept is wrong. And we really want to know the Dharma, and we are heading that way, in that sense. All right? Then the Buddha doesn't sit back like a guru and say, okay, I've done my job. You know? He says, I will myself go to Senanikama near Uruvela. So you go on there to teach the others the Dharma. So this is the Great Commission the Buddha gave. Now to conclude, let's look a bit of the aftermath. Okay, so here a bit of, no, down a bit, yeah. Some more, down. Okay, at Uruvela, the Buddha, so this is what happens next. At Uruvela, the Buddha converts the 30 young men, and then the 3 method ascetics worshipping Kassapa brothers, each with their 1,000 disciples, and then teaching them the Adita Parayaya Sutta, the fire discourse. And all this happened in the first year. Can you imagine the first year? It's got already 1,000 over, no? Quite a lot. And in the second year, the Buddha meets with Raja Bimbisara. It's also mentioned in Vinaya, who donates the bamboo grove. That's the first forest monastery. And then the Buddha ordains the first 2 chief disciples, Sariputta and Moggallana. So this is, we have looked at the first 2 years of the public ministry of the Buddha. Sadhu. So now, question time.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Sadhu for the teachings. Okay, let me read out the first question from Sister Josephine Hall.
Okay.
Okay, Brother Piya, please kindly elaborate free from mental influxes.
Oh, that refers to, that phrase means the person becomes an arhat. So the person has no more sensual desires, no more wrong views, no more ignorance. All right, and no more desire to attain this birth, that birth. You know. So you become an arhat. That's the meaning. Okay. I think is there a note at the bottom of that, the phrase? I usually will put the note at the bottom. You want the details, right? If you still it's not clear to you, please write to us. We will send you the notes so that you're clear about it. Yeah. So it means becoming an arhat, overcoming sensual desire, desire for rebirth, this and that rebirth, overcoming views and overcoming ignorance. Okay, next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Josephine, Sister Josephine Hall.
Okay.
This mean that Yasa listening the Dharma for the first time. Okay, I'm assuming it's his first time meeting the Buddha too. Is able to be free from mental influxes and clinging.
Yes.
How is this possible?
Okay, very good question.
Especially compared to the Buddha who has strived so hard to become enlightened and puzzled.
Okay, the first thing, in your question, sort of the answer there, the Buddha struggled to look for the answer in this life itself. So during his lifetime, there are many other teachers across the world, right, who look for answers, and they found it in their own way. So in India, you have the Buddha. Of course, Buddhists will tell you, oh, the Buddha prepared himself or went through many lives of, training and seeking. Like now, you all study Dhamma now, Suttasana. So you're more likely to do it, repeat this in the future life and so on. And this karma will carry on until next Buddha's time. If you follow carefully, keep to this direction. See? So that's the first thing. The Buddha already, by his habitual karma, follow like that. So it builds up and then it ripens into Buddhahood in his last life. Now, in the case of Yasa, again, same thing. You find he has been building up this amazing qualities and virtues in the past life. And you find there are many stories. For example, Jataka, you hear a story of the Buddha in the past life. Many stories in the suttas talk about Buddha's past life also. In the case of the disciples, the stories are found in the Apadana. The many stories are found in the past. They practice all kinds of virtues. So, of course, when we talk about the past, we're talking about now. What you and I are doing now, we are building up in our small way to study suttas. So, in that sense, we are close to the Buddha. So, by their past actions, past good actions, the present fruiting arises, especially when they meet the Buddha or the teachings of the Buddha under the right conditions. You must be ready and open yourself. There should be no gurus or teacher cutting you in between. Teachers are like bridges. You from the teachings, you cross over. So we don't go to the teacher for refuge. We don't go to the what they call guru for refuge. Even in the case of the Buddha, we don't really go to the Buddha for refuge, although we say it, because the Dharma is higher than all the other two refuges. So in the end, even the Buddha goes for refuge to the Dharma, right? So you find it's often mentioned in the teachings on the stream winners, Dharma above the teacher, teaching above the teacher. But we take the three refuges as a kind of a reminder that the teacher is important. We respect the teacher. Our best respect for the teacher is to practice the Dharma. The true teacher will be very happy with that. Not because you respect the teacher, but because you respect the Dharma. Both respect the Dharma. It's just like a musician, you see. This famous musician comes to town and you are a musician, you want to learn from him. You don't go around worshiping him, you see. You learn the music. You write music, you practice music, you play music. And then your teacher says, wow, that's very good. The teacher's happy. You don't go on worshiping the teacher, right? So same thing with the Dharma, it's like that. You respect the teaching, right? So that's how Yasa, because of his past karma and his present conditions. Remember, past karma, present conditions, they work together to create this wonderful ripening of good karma. And that's what we are doing now here. Okay, yes, continue please.
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. At the moment, there's no more questions in the chat box.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I raised my hand.
Sure.
There was where he said this one, if you see the Dhamma, you see me.
Sure. You said that to Wakali, yeah. So you are still my niece, is it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he uses the Dhamma, sees me, he uses me, sees the Dhamma.
Yeah.
So here, the Buddha is, basically this is an extension of the teaching on the supremacy of the Dhamma.
Okay.
Right, for example, you have in the Sambuddha Sutta, and I've often mentioned this, early suttas I spoke in this series is on that. When you practice the Buddha's Dhamma, when you see the Buddha, what are you looking at? His actions reflect the Dhamma. His words reflect the Dhamma.
Yeah.
So in other words, we don't look up to him as a person, as of power and so on, but as an embodiment, example of the Dhamma.
Okay.
So the Buddha said this in what they call it, special reference to Wakali, because Wakali was admiring the Buddha, because he see the Buddha as this really, the young Buddha is very handsome and strong and so on, because he was from the warrior class. So he became a monk just to become a groupie, admiring the Buddha all the time, looking. The Buddha humored him for a while. In the end, the Buddha reminded him, don't look at me just by body. This body will decay, and it will rot. But if you really want to see me, you will see the Dhamma. And when you see the Dhamma, you will also understand the nature of the Buddha. It is found in the Wakali Sutta. Yeah.
So, okay.
Paññāsa,
Look it in the list, yeah?
Yes. So if you want the sutta, just send a note to us. We'll send the sutta to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I mean,
yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, with the permission of the group, we just extend a little bit as usual because of the timing. Yeah. Okay, go on.
There's a question from Sister Liu Hill.
Sure.
Yasa attains Nibbana. Is this Nibbanic mind permanent? Stays with him till his Mahāparinibbana?
We can't talk of Nibbana that way. We cannot attribute Nibbana as being permanent or impermanent. Even if we say Nibbana is permanent, that means you're comparing it to something impermanent. So this is a problem of language. It's something you cannot bring into this world, in other words. It's just like you put a fire out. You cannot meaningfully talk about this fire that's gone out already. It is because of this deep nature of Nibbana, nobody can disprove it. See, once you bring the idea of God into the world and say God like this, God like that, then you're going to have a lot of problems because you have made this God worldly. And Nibbana is not like that. Nibbana is everything that this world is not. That much we can say. In fact, you have to understand non-self first. When you understand the nature of non-self, then Nibbana, maybe you may understand Nibbana, because if you already understand Nibbana, you're awakened, you see? So we must head that way. At the moment, we can only see the signpost. The signpost says, don't identify with the self. Don't think in terms of permanence. Let go of words. Feel it. Directly experience it. Right now, we will say, wow, what's all this? I don't understand. This is nonsense. Or this is, wow, this is tough. Chim, and so on, right? Okay, then you're still reading the signpost, which is fine, but move along. Don't stop at the signpost. And better still, please don't pull out the signpost and then twist it the other way around, or get a marker and scribble something on the signpost. That's what all those ancient Buddhist theologians have been doing. They've been changing Buddhism and pushing around the signpost and convincing people. Follow the signpost. Keep on moving. Keep on moving. Right now, this is what we understand. As our wisdom deepens, we say, oh, wow, yeah, you understand deeper. Western scholars are very good in understanding all these very abstruse aspects of Nirvana, but they have not attained it, but they understand what the Buddha is trying to say. So we work in that direction to build up your wisdom. Okay, any more?
Thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Sister Sogacho.
Sure.
Can lay people read Vinaya, or it should be kept secret from the laity?
You must be hearing this from the Chinese Mahāyana of Singapore, who don't allow the lay people to read the Vinaya because these are business secrets. No? Because when you read Vinaya, you know the monks are not keeping it in Singapore and Malaysia. See? That's why they do not want you to read it. See? The Vinaya was written because of lay people. Lay people complain. There's a story about Yasa. Yasa was a layman. So the Buddha didn't want lay people to be taken advantage of by the monks, so there were rules made to protect them. The rules are made to protect the monks also, so that laymen do not take advantage of them. So yes, very resounding yes, lay people must know the Vinaya. There are books written by very good monks, the Vinaya for lay people. 2-3 books so that you understand what a monk, how a monk should behave, how you should treat a monk, how you should not treat a monk, and so on. So please, read the Vinaya, try to understand it. There are simple books available, published by the monks themselves, available online. And we can even recommend a couple of books if you like, okay? Yeah, so please read the Vinaya as long as you're interested in it, you can understand it, and help you understand better how to support the life of a monk so that they're also inspired to become good monks and not modernist monks and scholar monks and commercial monks and all the wrong kind of monks today. Okay. Okay, any more?
Thank you, Brother Piya. The last question from Jayesh Kaur.
Yes, please.
The Buddha took some time to train the first 5 arhats. Coming to Yasa and friends, it seemed that the Buddha's skill and success in training them were smoother and faster. Brother Piya, do you have any comment? Thank you.
That's interesting. The first 5 monks, yeah, I suppose they were already very religious people. They're following the Buddha, so they're quite judgmental in a way, you see. So they were expecting the Buddha to follow their rules, because they have this idea you should practice self-asceticism, all this suffering and torture. And if the Buddha were to die that way, they say, oh, this is a great saint, and they will go around telling people the Buddha was a great saint, but died from his suffering. But the Buddha knew better, see? So the Buddha had to convince them, first of all, that they had wrong views. And that's very difficult, right? It's harder to teach about people who think they know Buddhism than people who come to you and say, I want to learn. So in the case of Yasa, he was totally new. And he also was young, see, whereas the other 5 monks are much older. So in that sense, yeah, it's much easier for the Buddha to teach them, right? So this is where sometimes teachers will tell you, our knowledge hinders us. So don't be caught up with knowing at the expense of wisdom, right? Wisdom means knowing how to use our understanding, that they are impermanent, that they are like steps on the rung to help us rise higher so that we see better, we see more of the world. And then as you do that, you find you have to let go of what you knew before, right? I don't know you noticed this or not. In my life of translating the suttas of 20 years, I call it the living teaching of the Buddha, you know, the living word of the Buddha, because as long as I live, I have to learn. And as I learn, I have to correct, not just typos. Typos are the easy thing to correct. It's the wrong views, you know, you begin to correct wrong views, so you present the Dharma more correctly, more effectively, more beautifully, more joyfully. So don't be afraid to let go of old views so that new wisdom arises in you. That's the purpose of learning. Let go of old learning, welcome new wisdom. Okay? All views, all learning are provisional, impermanent, remember, until you become awaken yourself. Okay? Any more questions?
Brother Piya, there's a request from Brother Ryan Go.
Yeah, sure.
He mentioned, Brother Piya, please kindly recommend the title of the books on the Vinaya for the lay people.
Yes. There are a couple of books, something like Vinaya for the layman or that. I think what I'll do is we will post them on our, this one thing good about, you know, Telegram, so you can easily copy it for yourself. There are free PDF available. All right. Yes, very good request. Thank you. Okay. Okay. And any other last minute question?
There's no more in the chat box, Brother Piya. And then, brother and sister, kindly please turn on your videos for speaking.
Yes. Okay. Right. It's really wonderful teaching this sutta, no? I mean, this Vinaya story actually, and also good to see you all. And we're all doing wonderful good karma together. And we are like Yasa and his friends. Okay. So be happy together, Mama. As before, Ratna, take your photo. So remember your practice, even a simple practice. Remember the teaching so that you can help others answer questions. You know, they're also curious. Basically, show them the example you're happy. That's the best way to teach them. All right. So Rana, have you taken a photo?
Yeah, Doris?
Doris, yeah.
How come you got reflection one, got Piya's picture in your video, and now got my video?
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
Yes. Mahā, we can smile.
1,
Yes.
2, 3.
Sadhu.
Sadhu. Thank you,
Okay. You can say
everybody.
cheese, you can say sadhu. Okay, that's wonderful. So have a good weekend. Happy weekend. Now I'm so happy that all this COVID thing is slowly being lifted up, right? So, but still stay safe, right? And be well and happy, everyone. So once again, let us spend this quiet moment remembering the story of Yasa and his many friends. So we are like that. We are friends from all over the world. It's amazing how the Dharma has brought us together. We do not even know each other before, but through the Dharma, we are here together. And for this, we have to thank the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. With this joy, wonderful joy in us, all this goodness, let us send our kind thoughts to our loved ones, all those who are related to us in some way, to wish them well and happy. Even people, friends that we have lost or offended, send your loving kindness to them, that your friendships will be healed. People who are sick will become well. So this is the time, this is the moment to send all those wonderful healing thoughts to all these people. And it's the moment also we show gratitude to the Buddha, his teaching, and the great saints of the past for preserving and exemplaring the good true teaching of the Buddha. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow down to the Buddha. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Bow down to the Dhamma. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Bow down to the Dhamma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, good night and good day to everyone all over the world.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.